Afternoon, Jay.
Hey, Ron, how you doing, man?
I am great, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. It's great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you as well.
Your new album, South by South Dakota, which came out, I believe, April 24th. And you're a man of many firsts, okay? In my research and knowing you, I want to go back a little bit. You're the first band to ever play at the UN, and probably the only band. Now, I have a friend that used to work there in the video department, and the amount of people that have been turned down to play there, including Alfred Hitchcock, because I talked to him the other day.
Wow.
I said, who do you know that's been turned down? And I know the last time I talked to you, I called you back about this, but I mean, he tells me that the A-listers and the who's who have gotten turned down to play there. You make a song, United Nations, and you guys shoot a video there. It's hysterical.
It was an incredible experience. I still have my pass that allowed me access. I remember it was obviously very tight security that day at the United Nations building. It was August of 1987, and we had been asked to do it. It wasn't like we went to, hey, man, we want to play at the UN. They asked us, or somebody did, that was doing a worldwide telethon for charity, which was actually based in Japan, but satellite broadcast around the world. And they had asked us simply because we had a song called United Nations. And at the time, my lofty dreams of trying to put out a positive message with my music and my lyrics, I thought that rock and roll was the uniting factor among young people everywhere, and that's one thing we all have in common, no matter what race or what country or what religion or rock and roll was the unifying factor, so to speak, and that was the real reason why the song was so important to me. But we were asked to perform that song at the United Nations building, and then of course we get all the gear set up, and they're going to roll tape in 15 seconds, or they're going to go live on satellite in 15 seconds around the world. So I climb up on the podium there, where whoever's speaking to the UN assembly, that's where they stand on that, behind that podium.
I've seen the video.
I climb up on the podium, and if you see the video clip, I'm standing with my back to the audience.
Yes.
On top of that podium, and there's security guards on both sides that is yelling at me, "Get down, get him off of there, get down!" And I just, good, I'm up here already. The cameras are live, and I'm going to rock out standing on top of this podium. Of course, I jump down, then run around for the vocal, and
right.
God, what an amazing experience. Dream come true, and nice that we did capture that on video. It was, and it is available on YouTube and on some of my YouTube channel. But great experience, man. Dream come true. I played Australia and I played the UN building.
Yeah. You were also the first guy to go country. And now so many people have in some way, shape, or form gone country.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about that before, and everybody knows about that. And, moving on to current stuff here, you were the first person that I saw on social media when the pandemic was really hitting to promote an album. And I'm going to read your Facebook post, which you put out March 31st. You said, "We know many of our families and friends and fans and neighbors are facing tough challenges right now. It's a difficult time for us personally to come online and promote, push, and sell our music and products, but this is who we are and what we do. We've got a new album, and we happen to believe it's a damn good one." Now, you put that out March 31st. The album came out April 24th. And I bring it up because shortly thereafter, when I first read that, I said, well, that's Ron for you. He does not hold back. And in the weeks to come following that, I can't count the amount of bands that started pushing merch because they're not on the road. And the only way they could really make money is do merch. So again, you were out there in front of it, and you weren't selling merch. You were selling a product.
Yeah, I felt that it was perfect time for this music. I knew once I listened to the final mixes of the entire album project that this was a perfect summer soundtrack for all of us, for the outdoor activities, for sports, camping, and grilling outside on the barbecue, and riding around on your motorcycle, or all the stuff that we all do during the summertime. Of course, none of us could have predicted what the summer of 2020 would end up being like, feeling like, or looking like. And now now, reflecting upon recent world events, I do believe this is the perfect soundtrack for 2020. You know, that's one thing about music, Jay, is that when you listen back, you hear a song and it takes you back to where you were when you first heard it. And yeah, these are redone classics. Of course, we've done our own versions of some of these great classic songs, but I do believe that in years to come, I know that I will look back on, every time I listen to this record, I'll look back on 2020, and I think a lot of our fans and listeners and people will remember this as the soundtrack of 2020. Now, we all need music, man. This is a very therapeutic record. One reviewer called it comfort food for the ears at a time when we were all isolated or in quarantine or locked down or whatever you want to call it. To put out the record, obviously for me was a no-brainer, and the hard part was, like you just read from my post from March 31st, asking people to shell out their money for it. So it was really tough to get online and say, hey, man, buy my stuff.
Right.
But we did try our best to make it a really great value. You've got an album that's almost an hour long, 11 great tracks, live tracks, an audio scrapbook of everything we've done the last 5 years, plus a great collection of Southern rock classics redone for the new generation, and a beautiful package with an 8-panel fold-out digipack with some great photos and a fold-out poster, a full-color poster that folds out that's included in the CD, and we tried to do all that for the initial price was $14.98, and the best value we could possibly offer the fans and the listeners to get this music into their hands without breaking the bank. So I think it was a great decision. Very proud of the path we took this year, and very pleased with the response. You know, I'm overwhelmed by the sales, the reaction from the media, the fans, and the sales in the online store at ronkeel.com have literally blown me away. And I see a lot of these names coming through on the list of consumers, people that buy the record, because I try and thank them personally or send them an autograph, something or other. I try and throw something extra in with their package, whether it's a sticker or a guitar pick or whatever. Some of these fans are my fans from back in the 80s who haven't bought a Ron Keel record in a long time, and a lot of them are new fans that have never bought anything that I've done. So I appreciate the support and the response from both sides of that spectrum.
Now, I know you're a very hands-on guy in pretty much everything you do, and I think I read somewhere that you even had a hand in getting this, the packages shipped out, and I read somewhere that you said you've been kicked out of damn near every post office in South Dakota.
That is correct. The first few days, because the product was late, Jay, the release date was April 24th, and we started sending out free downloads to everybody who had purchased the album in the online store at ronkeel.com, and so everybody's getting the free download, but the actual product was several weeks delayed. And so when we finally did get that truckload of CDs delivered to my front door, man, it was a mad rush. You should have seen my living room at the time, because we did the bundles, the fan pack bundles with the T-shirts, the shot glasses, the dog tag, the stickers. So a lot of the fans shelled out $50-$60 for these really nice ultimate fan pack bundles, and I wanted to make sure they got them in their hands as soon as possible. And there's only so many packages that'll fit in my truck, and then I pull the truck up to the post office. You're right. I am very hands-on. I do all that myself from the Ron Keel store, of course. The record company, Highball Music, has their own servicing procedure and all that. You could buy records direct from the label, but you can't get them autographed. You won't want an autographed CD. You got to go to the Ron Keel store. And so I had to sign each CD twice on the cover and on the poster. So every CD, first of all, is 2 autographs, and then all the other stuff that goes into it. But I enjoy that process. It really connects me with the fans and the listeners, and we have sold thousands of these things, man. I mean, I know that doesn't sound like much when we used to sell millions, but we've sold thousands of these packages, and it gives me a personal connection to handle the CD and the shirt and the shot glass, and the dog tag and the guitar pick and the sticker, put them in a package myself, put the label on myself, take it to the post office. So I feel like Santa Claus, you know. So I enjoy that part of the process, but that first 3 or 4 days was extremely stressful, but we got them out, and we're still getting them out. The sales are still going through the roof, and I'm trying my best to keep up.
Well, see, it makes it even more special because, it was hand delivered to the post office by Ron Keel. Not just signed and all the other stuff by you, but hand delivered to the post office.
Yeah, in Sioux Falls, where I live, it's a small town. We've got 3 post offices here. So they see me coming and they lock the doors, man. So it's a lot of fun.
Not this guy again.
Really.
All right, another first, or sort of a first, is you went out and you did your first gig, since the pandemic started. You played in Lead, Sioux City, Iowa over the weekend. Tell me about how the gig was. Was it a social distancing gig? I know you have gigs. You had gigs lined up for the year, and you still do, and some of them had to be moved around. Anyway, you got this gig off the ground this past weekend. Tell me how it went down.
Well, we had a number of shows. I think we've had 4 cancellations so far, which isn't many. We had expected to be off between the Australian tour, which ended in mid-March, and then our first summer dates were scheduled to start on Labor Day weekend at the Smokin' Country Saloon bike rally in Bloomfield, Ohio, and the following night was in Detroit. And so those dates got moved to August. And then we were on the bill with Blackhawk and Dwight Yoakam in Minnesota at a big country festival, and that got postponed. So I wasn't sure that this gig was going to happen last weekend until a couple of weeks before. And that's kind of the way it is now, Jay. Anyway, you're not sure. You don't know what's going to happen next week. Could be an asteroid. Could be an alien invasion. I mean, we don't know, man. We got to take it one gig at a time.
So true.
So the venue wasn't sure that the gig was going to happen until about 2 weeks before. And I called the guys, said, okay, it's on. And 2 of the guys now live out of state. And we had to fly them in and rehearse because we had our had rust, Jeff. It's been a while since we played. Luckily, I stay in shape. I'm singing every day at home and playing guitar and singing and working on my music. And so I stay active. I have to. I'm like a shark. If I stop swimming, I will drown. But as a band, we hadn't played together in a long time. So we had to get together. We had some great rehearsals. And so the guys, the band was ready. The production was great. We had about 1,000 people at an outdoor venue. It was a bike-oriented event at the Icky Nickel in Sioux City, which is kind of almost our backyard. We're in Sioux Falls. Sioux City is 80 miles away. Mm-hmm. And the gig was absolutely fantastic. I'm super proud of the results from both. I've got the best place in the entire venue. I'm right in between these great guys in my band that are behind me, and I'm right in front of this audience that has been starved for live entertainment, live music. There was no social distancing. There was one mask among 1,000 people. I think I saw one mask. That's everybody's personal choice. If you're healthy, let's rock. If you're worried about it, stay home. And everybody has to make those risk management decisions for themselves. Man, life isn't safe, Jay. I mean, I risk my life every time I get on the motorcycle or get on a plane, or everything that I do has some element of risk involved. When I'm out there in the public for the past 40 years, shaking hands and hugging and interacting with people, I am extremely healthy. I've only had the flu once in my life. It's been at least 20 years ago. Do not get a flu shot. My immune system is strong, and I'm confident in my own health. And so that's my decision. Of course, I'm concerned about the band, the crew, the audience. I want everybody to stay safe. But we've had dear friends that have died on the way home from a gig on a motorcycle crash. There's no guarantees, man. This is life, and it's a scary, risky business. Just being alive. So I'm all for getting on with our lives and doing what we can do. Now, the gigs coming up are still all contingent upon circumstance. You see now where we're getting the second wave, and we had hoped to go to L.A. and Vegas and Phoenix this winter. We'd like to get the hell out of South Dakota in the wintertime. Yeah. But we don't know, man. We take it one gig at a time. I'm glad to have that one big Ron Keel band show last Saturday night under my belt. And I've got some solo acoustic gigs as well coming up this summer. We've got the Sturgis Rally We just confirmed Chicago, Kansas City. Probably we'll stay within a 500-mile radius of home base until this thing develops one way or the other, until we're comfortable going all the way, 2,000 miles to LA or to Florida for Daytona, whatever. So we'll just have to take it one day at a time, man.
Now, what does a Ron Keel band set consist of? Because, you have a lot of different music.
The set is tailored to the audience. And I'd say that's just the way I've always done it, Jay. Even back in the day with Keel in the 80s, if we were opening for Metallica, we would pull out all the heavy stuff, all the fast, heavy,
Smart
aggressive
move,
stuff.
yeah.
We put on our leather jackets, go out there and scream. If we're opening for Bon Jovi, you're going to kind of load the set with some of the more radio-friendly commercial songs, and you kind of tailor the show for that audience. So the Ron Keel Band does exactly that. That's the way I've always done it. I give the people what they want, and at some of these gigs, especially the club shows where you're doing a 500-seat club, and it's Keel fans. We're going to front load the show with a lot of those Keel classics, all the Keel songs from the 80s, plus some of the album cuts as well, like Speed Demon, and so there's 9 Keel songs in that type of show, along with songs from Fight Like a Band and South by South Dakota and Black Sabbath as well. But at a bike event like this, where we're playing for, and sometimes some of these big rallies, like last year we opened for Night Ranger at Harley Nights, there's 25,000 people out there.
It's a lot of people.
And I know for a fact that, probably a small percentage of those people really know who I am or familiar with those songs and my history. You've got to give them what they want. So we'll pepper the show with the original music from Keel. You got to do The Right to Rock. That song's always in the show. The Right to Rock is a staple. It's always in the show, no matter what. The rest of the show is kind of tailored to that audience. So we started building these medleys of not doing cover songs, but paying tribute to our heroes. And you'll hear one of those on the South by South Dakota record. It's the Creedence Clearwater Revival medley, a live track that ends the CD or the album. And it is a perfect example of how these medleys are structured. You got a 7 to 10 minute highlight reel of Creedence songs, and we do the same thing with Marshall Tucker Band. We do the same thing with Leonard Skinner, and then we'll do some of the complete songs from South by South Dakota, like "Flirting with Disaster," "Rocket Into the Night," "Fire on the Mountain" as part of the Marshall Tucker medley. "Train Train" is always a staple of our show. So you give them what they want, you make the show yours, and you just try and gauge what's going to work for that particular audience on any given night.
Now, that makes perfect sense. And let me say this, much like Fight Like a Band, the production on this South by South Dakota is incredible. When I put this on headphones, the punch is there, your voice sounds young, fresh, killer. And I remember saying that to you when I talked to you about Fight Like a Band. And again, the production is there. Now, back to that Creedence medley, I did not realize part of that was live until it breaks, and I heard the audience. I was like,
it's all live. Yeah, that particular track is all live, and what's cool about it is that it was recorded at our very first gig ever, August 28th, 2015.
You wouldn't know it was live, and you wouldn't know it was your first gig.
It's all live, no fixes. Just that's part of the charm of it, is that we have a little audio memento of our first gig ever, and we can include that on this record. The first single we ever did, the first studio project, was "Ghost Riders in the Sky," produced by Henry Paul from the Outlaws,
sure,
a Southern rock icon who came to Sioux Falls to produce our version of Ghost Riders. Spent 3 days in the studio with us. And that to have that be a part of this project, as well as "Homesick," which was our first single when we rebranded the project as the Ron Keel Band in 2017. So, like I said, it's an audio scrapbook of everything we've been through the last 5 years. And the way the session happened, I'm sure since you've done your homework and you keep up with me pretty good, you know the story about how the album was literally formed. I mean, how the sperm fertilized the egg, so to speak, was we were in the studio cutting Fight Like a Band, and we started jamming on some of these Southern rock covers just to get warmed up. And we started with, I think it was Flirting with Disaster. It was probably the first song we did because we all love that song. And, the producer wants to get levels and go get a mix and get headphone levels and things like that. So we just jammed the tune. That felt good, and then we got on with our business. At the end of the day, we would do it again. We would just have a couple of cocktails and do Rocket Into the Night or whatever. And then after 3 or 4 days, I found out that my producer, Mike Dresch, was recording these jams. And I said, well, let me hear it back, man. And I listened back to it, and it was absolutely magical, Jay. It was organic. It was natural. It was fun. It was just a bunch of guys in the studio having fun together, playing songs they love, and not even knowing they were being recorded. So that magic was irreplaceable. And I realized at that point we had 4 or 5 songs. I knew we had the foundation for a very, very special album. And if you take those 4 or 5 tracks and you add Ghost Riders, got the Creedence medley live, and we got Homesick. That's 8 tunes right there. Let's pick a few more songs from some of the other iconic Southern rock heroes like the Allman Brothers and Lynyrd Skynyrd and so forth. And then we've got an album here, and here it is, South by South Dakota, and I couldn't be prouder of the final result.
And these versions that you do actually rock harder than the originals.
That is part of the plan, just because it's modern technology and modern recording techniques and such. But also, we didn't have any preconceived notions about trying to steer the sound one way or the other. And I kind of let my producer, Mike Dresch, mix it however he felt it. He is a guitar player, by the way, which is part of the reason why all of our mixes sound so crunchy and so big, because he's a guitarist at heart. And he beefed up the guitars big time on this one. Of course, you've got, I think, one of the biggest drum sounds that I've had since the 80s. That snare drum on Red, White, and Blue, some of these other songs, Rockin' Into the Night. I mean, it's a huge sound. And,
it is. I agree.
I think for the most part, we're faithful to many of the original versions, but there's really no rhyme or reason behind that strategy of how you approach a particular song. Like Flirting with Disaster from Molly Hatchet, pretty much, I mean, it's very faithful to the original, down to the same guitar solo, the same harmonies, the same feel, the same arrangement. And so you stay faithful to that original. And then songs like Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow to Be Cowboys or Fire on the Mountain, Ghost Riders in the Sky, we took a lot of liberties and really reworked the tunes to make them our own. So there really was no strategy to that, just whatever suited the song the best.
I love the Creedence medley, but I got to tell you, my favorite track on this album is Blackfoot's Train Train.
Well, I'll take it, man. And there's a reason that song is the lead track and the first thing you hear on this record. Probably the heaviest track. I mean, if it's the closest, I think, to my roots as an 80s metal artist. And I know that the hard rock fans will relate to that track. And it's been a part of our show since day one. I mean, part of the entire motif or theme of the Ron Keel Band has been this train. We've got a train that's built into our drum riser that shoots smoke and lights up, and it's part of the show. And the train motif has been part of our identity since we started 5 years ago, even down to the album cover for South by South Dakota, which is this beautiful piece of artwork. We call it the Ghost Train. And it's like a Mad Max kind of apocalyptic train coming right at you. And I knew that I wanted a train, some type of train image on the album cover. And I, of course, stayed up all night. I'm Googling images of trains and trying to get ideas, and then looking at photographs and illustrations and paintings and drawings, all kinds of art that depicted trains. Did not find anything that I liked until I came across this image from a video game. And I just fell in love with it. This bright orange spitting fire and this iconic apocalyptic train coming right in your face. So then I had to set about finding the artist who had created that piece of work. And it took a lot of searching, and finally I found a website that had a form that you had to fill out and try and get a message to this guy. And I sent him a message and said, I'm Ron Keel. I'd love to use this artwork for my album cover, and I just hope for the best, kind of like a message in a bottle.
Right.
You're on the internet, you never know. It's been the image that I found was 5 years old, and so a few days passed, and then I get a message back from the guy. He says he's a very reclusive, eccentric artist. His name is Cassor. He lives in the south of France, and he's not even active online at all. It's just a miracle that this message even got through to him.
Yeah, really.
But he says, Ron Keel, I'm a huge fan. I grew up listening to your music.
No
I love
way.
what you do. I'd love to be a part of your project. So it was really cool how that happened. And I ended up getting the one piece of art that really suited this project. I'm big on the album cover art and the packaging and all that. This is a beautiful piece, man. And to have the artist to actually track him down and find out he's a Keel fan was just a huge victory.
Tell me how Don't Misunderstand Me made it onto the album.
Well, like I said, going back to the history of the growth of this project, we had those 4 songs, I think, coming out of the chutes. We had Flirt with Disaster, Train, Rocket Into the Night, and, of course, we had the Ghost Riders and Homesick. And then you realize, okay, we've got an album that can really honor this genre of Southern rock and classic American music. What's missing? And you go through the history of Southern rock. Well, you've got to have an Allman Brothers track, right?
Right.
So we chose Ramblin' Man. A great story about that one if we have time.
Yeah.
Red, White, and Blue was the choice for the Skinner cover. We didn't want to do Sweet Home Alabama or Give Me 3 Steps.
Mm-hmm.
Those are sacred ground. Red, White, and Blue was the perfect choice for us. And then what else are we missing? And that Rossington Collins record, as you may recall, or maybe not, after the plane crash that took Ronnie Van Zant and some of the other Skinner entourage, Rossington Collins Band was basically the survivors of that plane crash.
Oh, I'm well aware. Yeah.
Yeah, getting back together, and that was the first taste we had of what was left of Skinner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they satisfied that hunger for that style of music in kids like me, and I always loved the album, loved the song, and I thought, what a great choice for this, because it's got a great place in Southern rock history. We'd like to honor that. Plus, it gives me the opportunity to do a duet with Jasmine Cain, who's a good friend of mine and a fantastic singer who does it's a male-female back and forth duet.
Sure. Again, that's why I asked about it, because, let's face facts. I get what you're saying about Rossington Collins Band being the first thing that came together after the plane crash. But, when you look at 38 Special and the Allman Brothers Band and, Creedence. It's, I thought it was, again, an interesting choice, but a great choice to put in there. And when I saw Jasmine Cain was singing on it, who I follow on social media, I said, well, check this out, because you got to have the female voice in there or it's not the same.
You have to. Yeah, we do a lot of shows with Jasmine. We're both part of that American biker circuit. We do shows in Texas. We did the Lone Star Rally in Galveston a couple of years ago, and Daytona Bike Fest, and we did Sturgis together last year. And I asked Jasmine if she wanted to come up and sing the duet with me. And this is before we recorded it. And she got on stage and just crushed it. I'm a huge fan as well. She is just an amazing voice, an amazing spirit, and talent. And also, she was born in South Dakota at Sturgis during the bike rally. I don't know if you knew that or not. But
that's credibility there.
And if you're calling your album South by South Dakota and doing a South by South Dakota Southern Rock tribute record, I mean, she is who better to represent the fairer sex than Miss Jasmine Cain. I love her to death, and she did an amazing job on that track.
Yeah, she did. When I saw her name on there, I go, oh, this is going to be good. And do you know, on a sidebar, I got to, because, I work in TV also, I got to meet the Rossington Collins Band. They were on an entertainment show that we did, and Gary and Alan came in with Dale was her name, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Dale Krantz.
They were the nicest people. And, they came in to do an interview, talk about the album. And, I was like, damn, these people are rock royalty,
Wow.
So, yeah. So when you brought up, like, I don't know if you know or not, I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Of course I know, So
now, a lot of the listeners don't know. And that's one of the most, probably the most obscure track in terms of hit status that, people don't hear that song every day. And a lot of our listeners and fans aren't familiar with it.
Well, that kind of sums up why I asked you about it, because I was like, it's interesting this made the cut.
Absolutely.
For that reason.
I think it's a great choice and
Yeah.
a great song. And hopefully that'll be the second single. We've got the Sturgis Rally coming up here in 44 days away from the big Sturgis Rally. And we hope to be performing there again with Jasmine Kane. And we'll shoot some video footage for the next single, which obviously, don't misunderstand me, is a great choice and no-brainer for the next release from this album.
Okay, another thing I want to ask you. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I thought I read in my research that you had said back in the 80s in Keel, and maybe this was more of a hindsight thing, but back in the 80s in Keel, and then when you first went country, you weren't completely comfortable in either one of those roles as you are today in the role in the music that you're playing now.
You're always more comfortable in your house than you are eating or sleeping in somebody else's house, Jay. I mean, that's just natural. And I built this house for me, and for my comfort. And it's a place right in the middle of country and metal. It's metal cowboy land.
As you call yourself, yeah. And that it is.
This is, I built my own house to my specifications. This is my custom home, my dream house. So of course I'm more comfortable here. Both the metal genre and the media and all the hype and all the stuff that went along with the 80s metal had a lot in common with the 90s country, because both industries would tell you what to say, how to act, how to dress, what to sing. And I never liked those restrictions upon my music. I wanted to express myself as an artist and just kind of be me. And there was a big part of me that just loved that energy and excitement and the thrill of 80s arena rock. And I love that stuff. And I still love those bands that I followed and grew up listening to, like Scorpions, Judas Priest, Van Halen, AC/DC. Those are my favorites. I also love country music and some of those artists and songs that shaped who I am. But country music was the same way. You can't say that. You can't wear that. You can't go there. You can't do that. It's a lot of restrictions, And it's the same thing with the 80s guys. You can't. The industry or the media would crucify you. Look what they did to Kevin Dubrow after he just spoke out. He was honest, man. He talked about, the real stuff. And I was the guy next door in the 80s as well. I was the guy who, I did not do the Motley Crue or the Wasp or the decadent, hedonistic. We partied a lot, man. No doubt about that. But I always tried to be a good guy, tried to be a guy next door, tried to be a real down to earth person, and just a regular Joe. I'm just working my ass off, entertaining you, and I'm no better than you are, and and that was me. And in the 80s, they didn't want that. They wanted the decadent, hedonistic rock star that was overdosing on drugs and getting in car crashes. That's just not me, man. So I never felt fully at home on either side of that fence. So I built myself a place in the no man's land, right in between, where I can feel totally comfortable and be myself here in metal cowboy land.
Yeah, and you do seem very comfortable there.
I am, indeed.
Now, speaking of speaking out, you sort of opened the door for this one. And, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. June 2nd.
Not much of a talker, Jay. You could probably tell.
You don't hold back, and that's what I like. Like I said, you're a man of firsts, and you don't hold back, and you do what you want to do. You're not hurting anybody. June 2nd was Blackout Tuesday. You put on your Facebook page, the music industry has designated today as Blackout Tuesday. No disrespect to peers or coworkers, but I am not participating. You had quite a few likes on that post, much higher than a lot of your other Facebook posts, because I did the checking on that. You had about 150 comments, the majority of them positive, and ones that were negative. You took the time to answer those people about how you felt. Will you elaborate on why you decided to not participate?
It is a touchy subject. It's very tough now when renaming everything and rewriting our history books, and there's obviously a lot of civil unrest and tension in our culture. My choice at the time was, okay, Madonna wants me to stand beside her and unite, or the music industry as a whole, which telling me that I should not go to work today, I should not post, as a sign of solidarity, when I've worked all my life to be just, kind, unprejudiced, unbiased, and you want me to prove that to you? If I don't prove it to you by doing this, then I'm a racist? Are you kidding me? Screw you. I'm going to work. I've got a job to do. I've got a new record out. I've got a team that's depending upon me to promote this record, and that's what I'm going to do today. And I'm supposed to not go to work that day because the music industry wants me to. And I wasn't stating my opinion one way or the other, because I do have people on my team that were observing that day. Jody Best, our publicist, who set up this interview with you and me, the lady who introduced the two of us, me and you, Jay,
Yes.
She was abiding by that as well. And I respect her right to do that. I just wanted to inform her and the other people on my team that I am not participating. There's no disrespect, but today I'm going to work. And that's all I was saying. And then, of course, I was a cop-loving racist bastard. And anybody who felt that way can just unfriend me or unfollow me. Don't buy my stuff. They're probably not buying it anyway.
Right.
If anybody really knows Ron Keel, or takes the time to know Ron Keel, or try and know at least the person that I try and portray myself as in social media, in the media, and on TV and on radio shows like this, I'm a good dude, man. I live right. I'm a human being first and a musician second. And I do no harm to no one. I am the most unprejudiced, unbiased person you will ever talk to or meet. So don't accuse me of being something I'm not. If you do, the fight's on. And bring it, because I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Well, you totally answered that. I appreciate that. You're one of the hardest working guys in rock and roll, in just about anything. I mean, every single day you work, you do something or another. You have, look.
I appreciate that, Jay.
Fight Like a Band only came out last year, and here you are in 2020 with another album. So you're not wasting any time.
I would have another original album in the can by now, but that Fight Like a Band was so emotionally taxing for me. It was a really personal record. Every song, every lyric meant something, and it was a huge challenge and a huge accomplishment. So how do we follow that? Give me a breather. Let's put out this South by South Dakota record, which is a great product, by the way. And, I don't have any qualms about any song being a cover or an original. They're all covers. Once I write it, then I'm covering it. Like, Fight Like a Band. I'm covering those songs now in my show. Some of my biggest hits with Keel were cover songs like Because the Night, Rock and Roll Outlaw. Somebody's Waiting was somebody else's song. Jack Pawnee wrote that song. And Tears of Fire was written by Keel guitarist Mark Ferrari. So I've been covering great songs all my life. I do feel now that I've got this huge dam about to burst, and all these songs the next album's going to pour out of me over the next 6 or 8 weeks between now and the next gigs in Sturgis. And we're also, I'll break the news on your show, we're planning on doing a live album in Sturgis as well, recorded live in Sturgis at the rally, that will include Fight Like a Band tunes, Keel tunes, Black Sabbath, South by South Dakota, and all of the great live staples of a Ron Keel Band show. So we're hoping to get that recorded, and who knows when it will come out, but I'm definitely going to capture that moment while the band is hot. We're going to record the shows in Sturgis and see what happens.
That is a great idea and the logical next step, and I personally would love to hear it, and I know a lot of people would. So
cool. Well, it's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Ron, as always, it is a pleasure. You are a nonstop energy giver.
I've got to sing and play guitar every day for a couple hours a day. And when the band was here last week, it was all day, intensive rehearsals and business activities with the guys in the band. But I wouldn't be able to talk to guys like you or do things like this if I wasn't on top of my game. And the only thing that keeps me there is practice and hard work.
There it is. Perfectly said. Ron Keel, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate you. Keep the good work going, and I'll hope to talk to you again soon, brother. You have been a big supporter of mine, and I appreciate your friendship and your support.